Fat burn secrets, list of fat-pumping food to avoid. Everyone loves a cheat meal or an overindulgence of food from time to time. After all, we are human. Some of the best tasting food are actually some of the worst in terms of fat and calories. But don't worry. You don't have to resort to living like a native. There are plenty of food that you can turn to that taste amazing and won't jeopardize your well-being. It's about learning why certain food are bad, so you can make better choices on a day-to-day basis. That being said, here are some dietary landmines to watch out for and step around. Trans fat. A new study published in the journal Preventing Chronic Disease revealed that 84% of packaged food that listed 0 grams trans fat on their nutrition facts labels still had partially hydrogenated oil, the main dietary source of trans fat, in the ingredient list. Current laws allow companies to round down fewer than 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving to 0. The good news? The amount of trans fat we eat has dropped in the past 30 years, according to a recent study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association. Men are consuming 32% less trans fat, and women 35% less, than they were in 1980. Still, 1.9% of men's daily calories and 1.7% of women's daily calories come from trans fat today. The American Heart Association recommends limiting trans fats to no more than 1% of total calories consumed. Even a few daily grams of these fats increase bad cholesterol, decrease good cholesterol, and clog arteries, and Harvard researchers estimate that trans fats cause up to 228,000 cases of heart disease and 50,000 deaths annually. Since 2 grams is the most you should have in a day, allowing food with 0.5 gram or less to call themselves trans fat-free is a real problem. You're best off avoiding trans fat-containing food completely. Non-dairy coffee creamer. Half a gram of trans fat in creamer can quickly turn into multiple, since consumers tend to use more than the serving size of a teaspoon per cup, and the typical American coffee drinker guzzles an average of 3 cups of Joe per day. On many zero trans fat labels, you can find partially hydrogenated oils as the second or third ingredient listed. Peanut butter. Some companies use partially hydrogenated oils to achieve a long shelf life and creamy texture, so check the label. To be safe, opt for the natural variety. Although it's chunkier, it's also healthier and normally made with just salt and peanuts, not oils loaded with trans fat. Frozen pizza. Trans fat sneaks into the dough of many frozen pizzas, with about 0.3 grams in just one slice. San Diego mother of 2 Katie Simpson sued a multinational company for $5 million last year over the use of trans fat in its frozen pizzas sold by famous companies. The case was dismissed since she knowingly purchased and consumed the pizza. One solution: make your own pie at home. Popcorn. It's your Friday night movie staple, but microwavable popcorn puts the spotlight on trans fats. The true culprits are toppings. Butter flavoring can include 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving, while caramel flavoring can contain as many as 1.5 grams. Some extra buttery varieties can have up to 15 grams of trans fat per bag, which is all too easy to inhale in one sitting. Stay away from the microwave popcorn, says Napoli. Just do the old-fashioned air pop or use an actual oil to pop the kernels in. Packaged cookies. Even the beloved cookies still sneak some trans fat in, despite a label that says trans fat-free. You may be able to justify those because they only happen a few times per year, but check to see if your favorite store-bought cookies are made with partially hydrogenated cooking oils. Chances are they are, including most bought cookies, now using high oleic oils instead, so they can provide shelf-stable cookies at a reasonable cost. Margarine. Margarine consumption boomed during the butter shortages of World War II, with even Eleanor Roosevelt promoting it as her toast topping of choice. But it's a recipe for trans fat overload. To create that creamy spread, liquid vegetable oils are blasted with hydrogen. The more solid the margarine, the more it's been hydrogenated. Many labels claim to have 0 grams of trans fat, but if the label lists partially hydrogenated oils, those small amounts of trans fat can add up when you slather margarine on your food. High fructose corn syrup, HFCS. This is an ingredient that didn't exist before 1960, but has a strong appeal to food manufacturers because it's so very sweet, cheap to make, and easy to store. According to David Zinchenko in the ABS diet, the human body doesn't have a shut-off switch for HFCS the way it does with real sugar. This leads us to keep drinking a cola or eating sweet treats long after we would have stopped if they were naturally sweetened. Those who pay attention to what they eat may have noticed high fructose corn syrup creeping into an alarming number of food in the supermarket aisle. Corn subsidies and other trends have pushed this relatively unhealthy substance into many of the general food groups that we shop for on a regular basis. Here are some of the popular food and drink items that contain high fructose corn syrup, an element with a lot of sugar that has been known to contribute to diabetes and other conditions when eaten in excess. Soft drinks. It's no surprise to most of us that soda is chock full of high fructose corn syrup. To those who aren't used to the drink, the stuff can be almost sickeningly sweet. Even diet varieties can have a large amount of this sweetener. Add the fact that soda machines can be found on the street corner, in the lobbies of buildings, and in almost any public area. Therefore, this shows that obesity and sugar-related conditions are seen as a worldwide issue. Sauces and salad dressing. Most ketchup ends up on French fries, and a few stop to consider that it's actually acting to make the fries unhealthier. That's because it uses high fructose corn syrup as its number 3 ingredient, at least a bottle of America's number 1 best-selling ketchup. There are 4 grams of sugar total, and the majority of that will come from HFCS. Yogurt. Although many dieters add yogurt to their daily menu, they'd better watch out at the sweeteners it contains, with many of the brands using high fructose corn syrup to make them taste good. Going with a light version of yogurt no doubt means you're getting an artificial sweetener, which can be just as bad. Processed snacks. There are other items that the average consumer wouldn't think of as HFCS candidates. Look at the labels for things like breaded meats or processed potato items, and make sure that the sweetener is not lurking somewhere on the label. Monosodium glutamate (MSG). Monosodium glutamate, also known as MSG, is a commonly used food enhancer whose taste is described as umami-like. Taste is usually divided into 4 categories: sweet, salty, sour and bitter. Glutamate is said to have a 5th, unique taste called umami, which is described as the savory flavor of meats. MSG is used to enhance this so-called umami flavor and is known to have negative side effects even when ingested in small amounts. Since MSG is found so frequently in processed food, it is very hard to avoid except in cases when the packaging specifically states that the product contains no MSG. Even then, manufactured free glutamic acid can be found in different forms, such as Tortilla yeast. MSG, Tortilla yeast, yeast extracts and hydrolyzed proteins can raise levels of glutamate, which in turn overstimulates neurons. Synthetically produced glutamates may have different names but are all essentially MSG. Some common glutamates strongly related to MSG include hydrolyzed proteins, autolyzed yeasts, protein concentrates, yeast extract, glutamic acid, and the list goes on. These glutamates can be found in very common grocery items such as low-fat yogurt, canned soups, chips, and most ranch and cheese-flavored food. In a 2014 study published in Life Science, researchers found that young rats treated with MSG were more susceptible to developing anxiety and depressive behaviors. Vegan breakfast sausage. Tortilla, Candida utilis, is a species of yeast that has become popular as a food additive in vegetarian and vegan food. Tortilla yeast can lend beef a more savory, meaty flavor. Not surprisingly, it is also commonly added to vegetarian burgers and meatless food products. The food additive is made by growing the yeast in a controlled environment in which was fed with sugar and minerals from molasses or wood. After the initial harvesting, the yeast will be laid out to be cleaned and dried. Some breakfast sausages contain yeast extract and natural hickory smoke flavor with Tortilla yeast. Some frankfurters also use naturally flavored yeast extract, which is another term for MSG. Some roast also uses naturally flavored yeast extract. Bacon bits. Perhaps this does not come as a surprise, but many brands which sell bacon-flavored bits include MSG. Bacon pieces, bacon-flavored bits contains yeast extract and disodium guanylate, another flavor enhancer that's often used in conjunction with MSG. Another company's bacon bits contains autolyzed yeast, and another bacon-flavored bits has hydrolyzed vegetable protein, all of which are other names for MSG. Veggie burger and nuggets. If you have ever eaten a veggie burger, then you may have eaten Tortilla yeast. Some popular veggie burgers contain Tortilla yeast. Some nuggets contains both autolyzed yeast extract and yeast extract. Fried food set aside the high amounts of trans fat, saturated fat, calories, and cholesterol that come with frying food, since that's been covered many times before and most of us already know about those dangers. Another reason to avoid eating fried food is that most of them will contain MSG. One of the easiest ways to get fried food with MSG in it is to stop into fried chicken shop and order anything fried from their menu. They're not the only culprit, not by a long shot. MSG is prevalent in so many packaged food. If it comes from a major food supplier, is fried and comes in a package, it will contain some amount of MSG. Artificial sweetener. Walk into any big box grocery store and you'll find that artificial sweeteners are everywhere. They're tucked into soft drinks, baked goods, and fruit juices to make them taste sweet without the extra calories. Most products that contain artificial sweeteners are usually labeled as diet or reduced sugar, but not all are. You can even find some in food that claim to have natural ingredients. Because they're not always clearly labeled on food packaging, consumers may not realize that they're eating them. Artificial sweeteners have been under the spotlight for decades now as health food advocates point out that they can come with a list of side effects, much like a drug. The side effects that are claimed by those against sweeteners like aspartame include some really severe conditions, such as depression, insomnia, blindness, tinnitus, hives, and a contributing factor to things like Alzheimer's and MS. Light food and beverages. If you're calorie conscious, you might be attracted to food that are advertised as light or light, since they'll have fewer calories than their regular counterparts. But what you're trading the calories for is typically artificial sweeteners that might be calorie-free but have their own side effects and health hazards. Diet soda. Diet sodas don't contain high fructose corn syrup, but in its place are sweeteners like aspartame. Aspartame got a bad rap back in the day when some poorly done studies linked it to cancer. Scientists have recently found, however, that the link doesn't hold up. Still, those with a rare disorder called phenylketonuria (PKU) may be sensitive to the chemical. The debate rages on whether aspartame is as bad as the claims being made, but why get involved with it? It's definitely not good for you, and if you're drinking diet drinks, you're concerned about your health and well-being. It's best to replace them with all-natural beverages that are low in calories but still have some flavor, like green tea. Packaged snacks. Many of these snack packs come in 100-calorie sizes, which appeals to many dieters. But in order to get them to taste good and not add too much to the bottom line, they include different unnamed artificial sweeteners in them. Whether or not these are bad for you is under question, but they're certainly not good for you, and it's a little unnerving when they won't tell you exactly what's in the food. Sodium. High levels of sodium, or salt, can really wreak havoc on your body. Not only does it cause you to retain water, but it also increases blood pressure and can lead to complications with the heart. Almost all heart patients are put on a low-sodium diet, whether they suffered a heart attack, stroke, or are at risk for them. It makes sense to watch your sodium levels long before it reaches the point of a doctor telling you to do so, or forcing you onto a diet to help save your life. Cheese. Cheese also has copious amounts of saturated fat and cholesterol, which is why you want to go easy on it as far as your daily diet goes. But there is another factor of cheese to consider, and that is the amount of sodium it contains. Be sure to stay away from liquid cheese, as that has almost a quarter of the RDA of sodium in one serving. And even cheeses that are often considered healthy, pack of sodium punch. For example, feta cheese has about half the daily limit of sodium in a 100-gram serving. Salty snacks. The problem with salty snacks is that the salt makes you keep eating them. Once you have the salty flavor on your taste buds, you automatically reach for another chip. And the sodium is only one concern, as these snacks are usually cooked in partially hydrogenated oils, giving them trans fats, and use artificial seasonings and flavorings. Frozen meal. The frozen food section of your grocery store can be another hiding place for salt. Frozen meals like pizza or meatloaf dinners might contain up to 1,800 milligrams of sodium, enough to put you over the AHA's daily limit in just one meal. Excess salt causes your body to retain fluid, which will not only leave you feeling bloated, but can also lead to high blood pressure. Look for low-sodium options, or, better yet, cook your own meals from scratch. Bread and tortillas. When it comes to breads, rolls, and tortillas, once again, you need to read the labels carefully. Don't assume that all grains are the same. One 6-inch flour tortilla can contain more than 200 milligrams of sodium, and that number jumps to over 500 milligrams for a 10-inch tortilla. Instead, choose plain corn tortillas, which contain just 11 milligrams of sodium for each 6-inch round. And if you're grilling this summer, a hamburger bun can add an additional 250 milligrams of sodium to your meal. Instead, try swapping in a lettuce wrap or portobello mushroom bun for added nutrients and flavor, without any extra sodium. Calories. Food high in calories can really add to your waistline in a hurry if you're not careful. The reason they're so sneaky is because you can consume hundreds of calories quickly and not even be aware of it. A popular dieting theory is that the fewer calories taken in, the more weight you'll lose, all else being equal. That's why you see people going on low-calorie diets and trying to burn calories in the gym. You don't have to go to extremes, but minding the calories you consume will lead to a healthier you. Pasta. Dishes. A plain bowl of pasta won't ruin your day, calorically speaking, but pasta often serves as the foundation for more calorie-laden dishes. A nice slab of lasagna, for example, can tip the charts at 850 calories, more than half of the calories allotted to some dieters. That doesn't leave much for the rest of the day. Also consider a small serving of spaghetti with meatballs that tips the tables at 916 calories. Chocolate. Dark chocolate is making a surge as a health food, but milk chocolate still rules the market and is the easiest to come by. The only problem is that it's not as healthy for you, as it's easy to ramp up the calories if you have a chocolate binging episode. Carbohydrates. It's not as if you have to go low carb or no carb, but you should still keep an eye on your carbohydrate intake. In fact, there's even a recommended daily allowance set at 130 grams. Why are too many carbs unhealthy? Food high in carbohydrates will be digested quickly and tend to increase your blood sugar levels. This causes a release of insulin, which produces glycogen, which gets stored in the body as fat. They're also responsible for making you feel hungry again quickly, and can lead to more eating and overeating than would otherwise happen. Bagels. For a long time, bagels were thought of as a healthy way to start the day, until the no-carb fad came along. Now they are gaining popularity again, but is it justified? A plain bagel. Bagels contains 59 grams of carbohydrates, and uses up 45% of your daily allowance. Chances are when you're having a bagel, you're not leaving it plain and are topping it off with cream cheese, butter, jelly, or making a breakfast sandwich with it, which only makes it less healthy for you. Coffee drinks. A cup of regular Joe won't damage your carb levels for the day, but when you get all fancy, you're ultimately creating a carb-infused cocktail. A medium cappuccino will cost you 12 grams of carbs, and a medium-sized latte, even with sugar-free syrup, still puts you at 44 grams of carbohydrates, almost ensuring you're going to go over your daily budget. Movie popcorn. No list of unhealthy food would be complete without movie popcorn on it. This can fit under many categories, including too many calories, too much saturated fat, too much MSG, trans fat from hydrogenated oil, and that doesn't even count the butter topping. But aside from all of that, it has plenty of carbs. A large-sized bucket has about 90 grams of carbs in it, with that number varying by location. This video has been made in Content Samurai, the fastest video creator. Hurry and click the link below to try it for free.